Hello, everyone. My name is Will Hawkins, and I'm here to talk to you today about a work of art from my childhood that really captured my imagination and influences my art even to this very day. I'm talking, of course, about the titular 1977 Rankin-Bass production of The Hobbit, and my connection to this film goes way, way back, all the way to second grade when I first encountered the source material, The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, and that sparked a love of fantasy that continues even to this very day. As you can see, I'm reading a fantasy book behind me. And another thing that is important to note from my childhood is that whenever I was sick, my mother would always rent me a movie or a film from the public library because we were not allowed to watch television like SpongeBob or things like that. They were too inappropriate and crass for our developing minds. So usually I would get something like National Geographic, Eyewitness, or my personal favorite, Amazing Animals. However, because we had read this book together, she decided that we would watch this movie. And after I saw it for the first time, whenever I was sick, it would always be the film that I requested. And after this, I was really Hobbit obsessed. I watched The Return of the King, that was also done by Rankin and Bass. Later on in middle school, I watched the Peter Jackson movies, and I read the book, The Lord of the Rings, as well. So this really kicked off a love of fantasy that I carried with me all throughout my development. Now, a little bit of history for the film. It was produced by Rankin and Bass, who you've probably heard of, but not for their 2D animation, but for their stop-motion animation. They worked on films like Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Santa Claus is Coming to Town, Frosty the Snowman, and so they obviously didn't have the infrastructure necessarily when they took on this film to do all that hand animating. So they outsourced it to a studio in Japan called Topcraft. And they are most well known for their films Nausicaa, Of the Valley of the Wind, and The Last Unicorn. Unfortunately, after The Last Unicorn, they went bankrupt. But many of the members from Topcraft later went on to found the company Studio Ghibli. So I like to think of The Hobbit as sort of this precursor to Ghibli. It's the very first of the Ghibli movies. So the film itself, the things that I love the most about the film is the style. Every frame and every background, it oozes just love and passion. The way that they use these loose flowing lines that are so smoky and ethereal. And you've probably heard of the term every frame a painting, and that is definitely true for this film. Just if you pause the movie at any time, you will see such a layer of detail and love put into every work, and the backgrounds have hidden faces in them, in the trees and in the caves, that you can see on subsequent watches. It really looks like it's coming straight out of a storybook, and I think that this idea of hearkening to storybooks also applies to the content. It is extremely faithful to the source material. They include many of the original songs, and also the tone of the book is much more whimsical and hopeful, I think, than some of the later Peter Jackson adaptations ended up being. And even though it is so whimsical and includes so much hope, it's not afraid of getting dark and showing us the grotesque side of war and of Middle-earth. And I think that really connected with me as a child. Now, the movie is not without its flaws. The highly detailed backgrounds and characters meant that due to time and money restrictions, the animation is a little bit on the stiffer side, and it doesn't flow perhaps as well as a Disney movie. And some of the character designs can be sometimes just exceedingly ugly or grotesque. And my friend Phil once said to me, the dragon looks like the winner of the world's ugliest dog competition. And he's not wrong. There's definitely an ugliness to the world, but I actually think that that's a good part of its charm. Now, as for how it influences my art today, I think that just at a cursory glance, the connections are pretty obvious. I am heavily inspired by this work. When it comes to the wrinkled hands, the big noses, the lack of smooth lines, I definitely take a lot of inspiration from the Hobbit. And when I asked my sister to describe my art style, she said that it was a fusion of folk and magical realism that combines natural forms in an exploration of the weird and dark. And I think that you can totally apply that to The Hobbit as well, where whether it's elephant tusks or ox horns, frog faces, and mouths, they are combining so many different animal forms into their character designs that make them feel natural, and like they fit in the world that they are in, and they fit in Middle Earth, but you never see them on our world or in other media that you encounter. And finally, I think that our work connects together in terms of theme. I think this quote from Tolkien says it best when he says, "The world is indeed full of peril, and in it there are many dark places, but still there is much that is fair. And though in all lands love is now mingled with grief, it grows perhaps to the greater." And this idea of the darkest parts of our life also defining and elevating our highest moments really connects with me. And I think that I try to put that into my own work, and I think that this film does an excellent job of balancing that. So in conclusion, if you have the opportunity, if you see it on your library shelf or it comes across your way, I really, really recommend you seeking out and watching this movie. It influences my work, and I hope that it can influence yours as well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in class. Bye!